we're doing this video from right here on the couch because this is pretty much where I've spent the last 3 days. I've been sick, haven't gotten a lot done, just pretty much been sitting here. A couple days ago, I thought I was going to make a video, so I asked the question on Twitter, what do you want to know most about PvP? And then I didn't make the video. So here's the video. Before we do anything, let me just start by saying that there's a lot of nuance in PvP. It's hard to just say, this is best all the time. In fact, it's impossible to just say, this is best all the time. A lot of this is going to depend on your understanding, your knowledge of the entire system. So what I'm going to try to do is, rather than just say, these are the best, do this, I'm going to try to explain the processes, the thought process behind all of that, so that you can at least be informed in your decision making when it comes to PvP. I feel like preparing you on a conceptual level is better than just saying, do this. You follow me? This is also going to be part 1. I actually sat on the couch back there for like almost an hour, sitting and explaining a bunch of different concepts regarding PvP, and then I realized that's way too long for one video, and I'm going to split it up into specific topics. So this video is about moves, how moves work in PvP, what the best moves are, and how you can learn how to assess moves and understand why certain moves are better than others. So then later today, hopefully, or maybe tomorrow, I'll upload the next part, which will be more about specific Pokemon and kind of understanding the metagame as a whole. Maybe today, maybe tomorrow, because I have a lot to do. I got to get this apartment cleaned up. Still have Christmas shopping to do. I pretty much lost the last 3 days to just being sick. So, part 1, moves in the PvP system. Hopefully I can do a decent job of explaining this. The first question from Pope Dave. What are the differences between energy and damage regarding PvP and gym battles or raids? Okay. This is an important question because damage stats are very different for PvP. The first thing that you need to understand when we start talking about damage and energy in PvP is that PvP is measured in turns, not in seconds. The reason for this isn't entirely clear. I think it's so that there's less desynchronization between the two players, if there's a little bit of lag or something. Every quick move is treated in terms of turns. So these turns seem to happen at the same time, which is why you can sometimes have two Pokemon faint at the exact same time if they use their moves. Essentially, you'll queue a move, or you'll send your input to the server, your opponent will send their input to the server, and then the server will send back both of the results to your phones at the same time on the same turn. Obviously, that doesn't mean that this is a turn-based system, but this is just how things are being handled on the back end. So quick moves are handled in turns. Turns are each half a second. So every quick move takes a certain number of turns, so every quick move's duration is a multiple of half a second. So let's start by looking at those quick moves. Pokemon Go Hub has a nice, cleanly formatted chart of all the moves. Again, this data was extracted by Clamus Chowderus on Reddit. So we can look here, and it'll show you damage per turn and energy per turn. These are the stats that we're going to use to compare quick moves in PvP. You can see the power of the move, the energy that it charges, and the duration in turns. So Mudshot, a move with a duration of 2 turns, takes 1 second. Each turn being half a second, 2 turns being 1 second. For the most part, a lot of moves are fairly balanced, where the lower their damage is, the faster they're going to charge energy. At the top, the fastest energy charging moves, Mudshot, Thundershock, and Psycho Cut, and they also have some of the lowest damage per turn. The list by default is sorted by energy per turn, and as you scroll down, you can kind of see where the outliers are. When we get to the moves that charge 4 energy per turn, most of them deal 2 damage per turn, except Vine Whip. Vine Whip has higher damage per turn than the rest of the moves that charge the same amount of energy. Vine Whip, a little bit of an outlier. As we keep going down, the moves with 3.67 energy per turn. Bubble, among those, deals the highest damage per turn. Bubble is a move that you want to look at. The moves that charge 3.5 energy per turn. Counter is an outlier, and Counter is probably the best quick move in PvP. It deals a large amount of damage and charges energy very fast. And then as we continue down, the moves that are charging 3 energy per turn. Dragon Breath is another outlier, and Dragon Breath is a move that you definitely want to be looking at. So the best quick moves in PvP are typically the moves that have high energy gains and high damage compared to other moves with similar energy gains. Obviously, Mudshot, Thundershock, Psycho Cut, those are going to be great moves if you want to charge energy as fast as possible, and most of the time, you do. Outliers like Vine Whip, especially Counter, Dragon Breath, those are going to be top tier moves as well. Now, I know some of you are watching this and looking at this and just going, I don't want to figure this out, I don't want to think, just tell me what's good. Let's put it this way. The average energy gain is 3 energy per turn. The average damage is also about 3 damage per turn. So, if you want to just draw the line somewhere, any move that charges above 3 energy per turn, those are moves you're going to want to look at. Any move that charges less than 3 energy per turn, probably not worth your time. It's going to be a lot more dependent on which Pokemon is using the move and what charge moves you have paired with it. So anything above 3 energy, good. Anything below 3 energy, usually bad, could be okay depending on what else you have going on with that Pokemon. Simple enough, right? Now when it comes to charge moves are also different than we know them previously. Their power is going to be rated the same. However, charge moves now have completely different energy costs. In gyms and raids, we're used to 1 bar, 2 bar, and 3 bar charge moves, each costing 100 energy, 50 energy, or 33 energy. Forget all that. In PvP, charge moves cost between 35 and 80 energy, and the max energy you can store at one time is 100. So the number of charge bars that a move actually has is typically a decent indication of the energy cost that it's going to have in PvP, but remember that it's not entirely accurate. It's not exact. For example, Hydro Cannon, Frenzy Plant, and Blast Burn, which are all 2-bar charge moves, which should cost 50 energy, each have energy costs of 40, 45, and 50. All 2-bar charge moves, 3 different energy costs in PvP. So again, GamePress has organized all this data into a nicely sortable list, and what we want to sort by is damage per energy. This is the amount of damage that a charge move deals based on the amount of energy that it takes to actually use it. Again, because when you're using a charge move in PvP, your opponent can't do anything, so there's no time. You get to use your charge move, you get to charge it up, and that's it. All that matters is the amount of energy that it takes to get you to that point. So if we look at the top of the list, it's dominated by a few moves that don't actually appear in-game yet, and the Community Day moves. Doom Desire, that's Jirachi's signature move. We don't even have Jirachi yet. But Hydro Cannon, Frenzy Plant, and Blast Burn top the list as far as moves that are actually available in-game. And like I said, they all have different energy costs and slightly different damage per energy, but they're all up there at the very top of the list. These are the best moves in PvP. Below those, Origin Pulse, Precipice Blades, those are signature moves of Kyogre and Groudon, also not available yet. But then we have Draco Meteor and Meteor Mash, more Community Day moves. And then just below those, we start getting into the moves with the highest damage per energy that you can easily obtain right now. Leaf Blade is all the way up there at the top, and Leaf Blade is one of my favorite moves because it also has a very low energy cost, and energy cost is another thing that you really want to pay attention to with charge moves. So a move like, for example, Focus Blast, great damage per energy, right up there with Leaf Blade. However, not really a highly recommended move for a lot of Pokemon that learn it because of its high energy cost. Think of it this way, if I'm running Leaf Blade and you're running Solar Beam, assuming we're charging energy at the same rate, I can fire off 2 Leaf Blades before you get a single Solar Beam charged up, and in a lot of situations that can mean the difference between staying alive and fainting. So not only do you want to look at damage per energy, but you also want to pay attention to the actual energy cost. There's kind of a sweet spot here, I would say. In the middle, moves with kind of medium-low energy costs, 50, 45, 40, and pretty decent still damage per energy. Moves like Power Whip, like Wild Charge, Dynamic Punch. Again, Dynamic Punch we recommend over Focus Blast a lot of times. Rock Slide, Sky Attack, Thunderbolt. These are very strong moves in PvP because they deal decent damage per energy and also have relatively low energy costs compared to a lot of other moves. With charge moves, if you want to draw the line somewhere, again, I would say around 1.4 damage per energy. A move like Dragon Claw. Dragon Claw is one of the top tier moves in PvP. Even though it only deals 1.43 damage per energy, it's low energy cost, 35 energy, and its typing, it has very few resistances. It deals neutral damage to a lot of types. Makes Dragon Claw a very strong move. Anything below 1.4, very situational, and for the most part, there are better alternatives for nearly every type. Again, that's not like a hard and fast rule, that's just kind of a guideline. There are moves below that 1.4 damage per energy. Below Dragon Claw, in terms of damage per energy, there are a few moves that are actually recommended or usable, and most of those are going to be the very low energy moves, the 35 energy moves. There are things like Ice Punch is recommended for a lot of Pokemon, Aerial Ace, and most of the time these are secondary moves. These are type coverage moves. Your primary charge move is going to be a stronger damage per energy move. But again, what I'm trying to say is there's no exact cutoff where you only want to use moves above a certain level. It's going to depend on the Pokemon, the potential matchups, and the other moves that you're running as well. The next big question that's coming from T-Sharp, do charge moves get stronger the more you tap? The answer is yes. We don't know the exact numbers, we don't know the exact cutoffs, but as you're rapidly tapping your screen to charge up your charge move, you'll notice there's a circle that grows in size outside of the actual button that you're supposed to be tapping near or on. I don't think it matters where you're actually tapping. But as that circle grows, you want to kind of max it out. When it gets to this point where the circle's not growing anymore, that is ideally maximum damage. You always want to be dealing the most damage possible, so just tap away. Tap like crazy, try to max out that circle. That's part 1-ish of understanding PvP moves. I hope I've done an okay job explaining that. I hope that makes sense. If you have questions, as always, please feel free to ask down below. And then do check out the links in the description so that you can kind of look at this on your own time rather than just, the small sections of it that I put up on screen. Next part will be understanding the metagame as a whole, which Pokemon are relevant in the metagame and why. More importantly, why. We'll get to that soon. See you then.